Hey guys, welcome to the Field of 68 YouTube channel. If you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button and you'll get more college basketball content just like this. Arizona goes on the road, 105-99, triple overtime. They get 27 points from Pella Larson. Josh, what can you take away from a win like this? I feel like
Hey,
Tommy probably
Josh.
had some.
Josh, he doesn't even understand who he's got on the show. He hasn't even made mention that he has two Arizona alums. Now, I don't know if you got your degree, Josh, but it took me about 6 years to get mine.
It took me 2.5 years, and then just for my bachelor's, and then 1 year for my master's. So, uh, while you were still at the parties, I had already graduated. No, but Rob. First of all, thanks for both of you guys having me on. What I would tell you about this win for Arizona, I think it's a great sign to win a game like this. Number one, and people get in college basketball, especially in college basketball, where every game gets so magnified and it matters. In the NBA, there's 82 games. There's a lot of discussion about is it too many games, but they play 82 games. Rob, Jeff, you guys an NBA team can lose 5, 6, 7 in a row and still make the playoffs because you do that in college basketball, your season could be over. Where you're going to have to win the conference tournament to play in the NCAA tournament. I say all that to say that just every game is so important, whether it's in early November or the beginning of February. And for tonight, at this part of the year, for what Utah's playing for, obviously Arizona's fighting for a one seed. Utah's trying to be in the tournament, and it's at Utah where it's a hard place to play. Any road game, anytime you have to go on the road to try to win just a game, period. But you times that by 20 when it's a road game in a school like Arizona where you're getting everyone's best shot. They're coming in a top 10 team. Everyone's gunning for them. And for them to find a way to win this game, they had a lead. It was back and forth. Utah played zone. Teams, Oregon State beat Arizona a couple weeks ago. Part of it, Oregon State played some zone and Arizona got a lead, then kind of let their foot off the gas. But when Utah went zone against Arizona, there were some ups and downs, but they made some shots. They did a great job cutting to the basket. They found the open man. And I would tell you, and I'm not just saying this, I think Tommy Lloyd has done about as good of a job. You look in a first 2.5. The only thing he hasn't done is really get to the Final Four, basically. And Mark Few, I love Mark Few, one of the great guys in the business. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, hands down. The only thing I'm missing on his resume is a national title. But the facts are, you look since Tommy's left, which is a credit to Tommy, is my point. Gonzaga's, it hasn't. They haven't been
Falling
dominating.
off.
Arizona's been dominating. So you look at how much Tommy's been part of that. Whether that's been the part of Gonzaga, again, Coach Few deserves all the credit. But I'm just saying, when you lose guys like that, you see it happen in football too. And then Tommy coming to Arizona and the job that he's done there, the credit that he deserves. It's why he's one of the very best future coaches, and for what he's done to this point, it's really remarkable and another great win for Arizona. So Rob, I think it's a big time win. I think it's a character win for them and a toughness win, and credit to Arizona for that.
Yeah, Jeff, Utah is a top 40 team in most of the metrics. And this would have been a very easy one after blowing a 16-point halftime lead to just kind of let it slip through your fingers. But that's not what happened. Caleb Love missed a shot at the end of the first overtime and the end of the second overtime that would have won the game, but he ended up hitting the biggest three of the day that kind of got the lead to 6 with about 2 minutes left in the third overtime. Where do you stand on Arizona? Because I go back and forth on them. When you watch them and they're good, they look as good as anybody in college basketball. Then you see them go on the road in league play and they can lay some eggs there, but it's also on the road in league play. So just kind of let's go to like a 35,000 foot view on your alma mater.
So I think they can get bored in the Pac-12. We've seen them at Duke look terrific in a really tough environment. We saw them look very good against Purdue in a road game, even though it was Indianapolis. So they've played well when the stakes have been at their highest. But again, it's hard right now. The Pac-12 stinks. They don't have a lot of really good teams. They don't have a lot of teams with resumes that they're excited to play against. Now, again, you can fault them for that and say, like, they should be able to get up for every game, but they're college kids. this was a big game for them. They got out to an early lead, a big lead, and then they took their foot off the gas. So I think there is something to be said about for this team being a little bit more self-motivated, being a little bit more mature. But ultimately, they've got the pieces to still go to a Final Four. To me, it's Caleb Love. It's as far as he's going to take him, right? Just like Carolina a few years ago. He can make, like we saw in this game, Rob, he was Carolina Caleb for a lot of it, right? Like that play at the end of the first overtime or the second overtime, whichever it was, where basically he didn't find the open man. He took a terrible shot. But then in the third overtime, he makes a huge shot. That is Caleb Love. So ultimately, he can get him there. And if they get to the Final Four, they're going to celebrate. I don't think Arizona can win the whole thing with Caleb Love being the guy because I just think he's too inconsistent. Well,
and Rob, I think Keyshawn Johnson is really their X factor. I really believe that. And he was 6 for 15 today from the field. But I think Carlson's really good for Utah. But if you watch, there was a late play there in the corner where Carlson shot the three and he missed it. And Keyshawn had a hand. I mean, he was guarding him. He guarded Carlson on that. The difference, what I think makes Arizona and Tommy's teams, this is his third year, but what makes Tommy's team successful this year is Keyshawn Johnson, just on the fact of, their four men in his first 2 years have been able to score, but they haven't been able to defend. When I say defend, like they've been more of an inside defensively. And if you look at some teams that they struggled against, especially in the tournament, was when their four men had who they were guarding really exposed them in some areas because they're really were bigs in a sense. Where with Keyshawn, I keep calling Keyshawn, he's able to switch. He can guard 1 through 5. He's versatile. He's multi-dimensional, and I think he's their X factor. And yes, Jeff, you're right about Caleb Love. I mean, they need Caleb to be outstanding. And I thought Pelle Larsson's a really good player, and he was really good. But the X factor is Keyshawn Johnson, and just in the fact alone that his ability to what he can do defensively. Obviously, he can do things offensively, but it's his ability defensively when they play against that team where their 4 or 5 is more of a small ball 5 or a 4 that's really a 3 or maybe even a 2. They can stretch the floor. Him being able to switch on those type of things where they haven't been able to really do that as much in Tommy's first 2 years makes Arizona much more much more of a way to have it set up in a way to make the deep run this year and because they're going to be a high seed, but to advance deep into the tournament and possibly get to the Final Four.
Yeah, so I'm going to disagree with both of you guys and say that I think Kai Boswell is actually the key to this team because I think Arizona kind of goes as he goes. And I now have a theory, and I might be reading tea leaves a little bit too much. I might be reading a little bit too much into it, but late in the second half, he had a little bit of a collision and went down holding his shoulder, right? And what we've seen throughout the season is that when he plays well, that is when Arizona is at their best. And when he struggles and when he has really, really bad games, and he can have some horrible games, then that's when Arizona goes on the road and takes some of these ugly losses. So I wonder if that shoulder's been bothering him all year because there wasn't a lot of contact that left him in that much pain. And he tried to come back in and he tried to play, and they ended up holding him out in the second overtime. I'm assuming because of the shoulder. We haven't heard Tommy talk about it yet, but I do wonder if that is something that is bothering him because he actually played well tonight. And since he had that horrible game it was at Oregon State that they lost, he's been really, really good the last 4, and Arizona's won all of the last 4. So that's kind of where I'm at with Arizona. That's kind of where I'm at with Kai Boswell, and I tend to agree with all of you guys. Listen, we're gonna
and let me just say this
go ahead, Josh.
No, I was going to say, and you look at a game like this for Utah, which they're going to be kicking themselves. Because to win this game would have probably – I mean, you talk about a win like this where it could set them up in the tournament. You look at the free throw line, 10 for 21 from the free throw line. I mean, that will drive a coach sick. Like literally a head coach, you'll be sick for days. You don't get over that tomorrow morning. You're sick for days because to lose the game on – really, you make some free throws, you're winning the game. And those things drive you up the wall. And to win in the tournament, as you guys know, as much of a little stat as that is, not turning it over, making free throws, those type of things are the difference between winning and losing when every possession is so important.
Thank you for watching the Field of 68. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, hit that like button, share this link with your friends, or check out the description for some other places that you can consume Field of 68 content.